Have you ever looked at aging and thought, why didn't anyone warn me about this part? Not the sweet, soft-focused version filled with sunsets, grandchildren, and golden years, but the real version, the one that sneaks up on you with strange habits, emotional outbursts, unexpected fears, and quiet embarrassments that no one wants to admit out loud. We all hear about aging with grace, about wisdom and peace, but very few ever talk about the raw, awkward, sometimes even ugly things that start happening as the years go by. Things like irritability that comes out of nowhere, hoarding little things that once meant nothing, snapping at loved ones, or struggling with personal hygiene, memory lapses, or clinging to routines with fierce resistance. These aren't signs of failure. They're signs of being human in a body that's changing faster than we can understand. And while these behaviors may be uncomfortable to witness or experience, brushing them under the rug only makes aging feel more isolating. So today, we're going to talk about the unspoken side of aging. The 10 ugly things that seniors do that almost no one talks about. Not to judge, not to mock, but to finally say, this is real, this happens, and you are not alone. Because when we bring truth into the light, shame begins to fade. So whether you're 60, 70, 80, or you're caring for someone who is, keep watching. What you're about to hear might feel deeply familiar. And finally, honestly seen. 1. Withdrawing from a world. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins with a quiet, maybe next time to lunch with a friend, then a skipped birthday party, a missed call, a text left unanswered. Over time, this gentle retreat becomes a wall, silent, invisible, but powerful. Many seniors don't even realize it's happening. They'll say they're just tired, and they are tired of struggling to hear in noisy rooms, tired of being the only one who doesn't understand the joke, tired of trying to keep up with a world that feels like it's sprinting while they're barely walking. There's also the emotional weight, watching peers pass away, trying to stay relevant in a world that no longer seems to need their wisdom. So they shrink their circle. They stay home. They avoid invitations not because they don't care, but because it hurts to feel out of place. And here's the hard truth. That withdrawal feels safe. It feels like rest, but it quickly morphs into isolation and from there into loneliness, depression, and even memory loss. It's a quiet spiral, one that often goes unnoticed until it's deep. And yet, behind every closed door and unanswered call, there's usually a heart quietly hoping someone will knock and not give up. 2. Becoming unreasonably stubborn. To those on the outside, it looks like plain old stubbornness, refusing to use a walker even after fall, insisting on driving when it's no longer safe, rejecting help with groceries, medicine, or even the simplest tasks. But dig deeper, and what you'll often find isn't arrogance, it's fear. Aging comes with a quiet, relentless erosion of control. The body weakens, the mind slows, choices shrink. And for many seniors, the few things they can still command, like saying no or doing it their way, become precious territory. So they grip harder, they push back, not because they don't understand the risks, but because they can't bear the thought of becoming irrelevant or worse, helpless. And yet, this resistance is often misunderstood. Family members see it as defiance. Caregivers see it as irrational. What gets lost in the middle is empathy. That behind every "I don't need help" is a quiet scream, "Don't treat me like I'm already gone." This kind of stubbornness can damage relationships, delay critical care, and leave everyone frustrated. But if we pause and listen, we'll hear something deeper than rebellion. We'll hear someone fighting to feel human in a world that keeps reminding them they're aging. 3. Neglecting personal hygiene. It's one of the most uncomfortable truths about aging. Rarely spoken, often judged, and deeply misunderstood. But many seniors gradually begin to neglect their hygiene. The baths grow less frequent. The toothbrush gathers dust. Clothes that were once changed daily are worn for days. And when it happens, people whisper. They assume laziness, carelessness. But what they miss is the deeper story behind the silence. Sometimes it's pain. Bending, standing, or lifting arm to wash hair becomes too physically demanding. Other times, it's memory, forgetting whether a shower was taken or when. But most often, it's emotional. It's depression cloaked in silence. When life slows down, when there's no work, no visitors, no one to impress or meet, the one simple rituals of grooming begin to feel meaningless. The mirror doesn't reflect who they once were. The effort feels heavier than it should, and what used to be a daily act of self-respect begins to feel optional. But here's the hard truth. This isn't just about cleanliness. It's about dignity, about the slow fading of a person's sense of worth. And without support, compassion, and encouragement, this slide can deepen, isolating them further. This isn't about soap and water. It's about helping someone feel human again. 4. Hoarding and holding on. At first glance, it might seem harmless. Just a few extra boxes, stacks of newspapers, or shelves lined with decades-old canned goods. But look closer, and you'll see something far deeper. Hoarding, especially in older adults, isn't just about clutter. It's about loss. It's about fear. It's about control in a world that keeps taking things away. As we age, we lose friends, we lose health, we lose roles we once held with pride. And so, some seniors begin holding on to objects, to memories, to a time when life felt full. Each plastic bag stuffed in a drawer, each broken appliance in the garage, each yellowed receipt tucked into a box. They're not just things. They're anchors. They whisper, I was here, I mattered. And in that quiet desperation to remember and to be remembered, hoarding grows. But while the emotional need is real, the physical toll is heavy. Pathways become blocked. Homes become hazardous. Mold creeps in, pests take shelter, and the risk of falls or fires rises. What's worse is the isolation it causes. Visitors stop coming, shame builds, and the senior retreats further into their fortress of forgotten years. The solution isn't ridicule or forced cleanouts. It's empathy. It's understanding that behind every pile is a person simply trying to hold on to something, anything, in a world that keeps letting go. 5. Obsessing over the past. Spend time with an elderly person, and you might notice something. Conversations often circle back to past. A memory from 1952. A lost love. A mistake they still regret. A moment of joy that feels sharper now than it did back then. At first, it might seem like harmless nostalgia. But for many seniors, this repetition is deeper than sentimentality. It's a quiet reckoning. As the future shrinks and the number of tomorrows grow fewer, the mind naturally drifts backward, seeking answers, connection, and sometimes forgiveness. The past becomes a safe space, a familiar rhythm in a world that no longer makes as much sense. But it can also become a trap. Old wounds resurface. Unspoken grief bubbles up. Regret becomes louder. And for those around them, children, caregivers, loved ones, it can be emotionally draining to hear the same stories, to witness the pain that never quite healed, to feel the weight of decades sitting in a single room. This obsession with the past isn't just a longing for the good old days. It's the brain trying to process, to organize the story of a life before the final chapter is written. For some, it's comforting. For others, it's haunting. And unless we listen with patience and compassion, these moments of reflection can become cries for closure, unheard and unresolved. So if your loved one repeats that same story again today, don't correct them. Sit with them. Ask about it. You might just be helping them find peace they've waited a lifetime to touch. Fixating on routine and losing flexibility. Have you noticed how some seniors get deeply upset if dinner is 5 minutes late, or the TV channel is changed without warning? Routine becomes sacred. Predictability becomes peace. Aging brains often don't cope well with change. And after years of adapting, compromising, and adjusting to life's chaos, many seniors cling to their routines like lifelines. Unfortunately, that rigidity can make caregiving harder and relationships more strained, becoming more judgmental or critical. With age, patience should grow, but that's not always the case. Some seniors become harsh, critical, or downright mean. They point out flaws. They grumble about today's world. They nitpick their children or snap at caregivers. Why? Often it's pain, emotional or physical, that goes unspoken, or bitterness from a life that didn't turn out how they imagined. What sounds like anger is often heartbreak in disguise. But that doesn't make it easier to live with. Ignoring medical advice. It's baffling. A lifetime of experience. And yet, Some seniors refuse to take medication, skip doctor appointments, or dismiss serious symptoms. They say things like, "I'm fine," or "It's just old age." Sometimes it's denial, sometimes it's fear, and sometimes it's just plain exhaustion with the medical system. But ignoring health needs can speed up decline and often leaves family feeling helpless and frustrated, saying inappropriate things. The filter thins with age. Seniors sometimes say things that shock younger generations, sexist, racist, or deeply personal comments that feel out of place. Some of this comes from cognitive decline, some from being raised in a different era, and some from simply not caring what others think anymore. It's uncomfortable, but it's also human. Navigating this behavior requires patience, boundaries, and understanding where it's coming from. Not just reacting to what's said, giving up too soon. Perhaps the ugliest truth of all, some seniors give up before their time. They stop trying, stop dreaming, stop fighting. They say things like, "I've lived long enough," or "There's nothing left for me." But life doesn't end at 80, or 90, or even 100. The heart still longs. The spirit still wants joy. But the weight of loss, pain, and change can crush hope if left unchecked. That's why it's so important for loved ones, for caregivers, and for seniors themselves to keep finding reasons to keep going. Every day, every breath, every connection. Final thoughts. Aging isn't always graceful. It isn't always wrapped in gold medals, cozy sunsets, or polite smiles. Sometimes, aging is raw. It's messy. It's confusing. And yes, sometimes it's undeniably ugly. But here's the truth that no one says out loud. Just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's shameful. These so-called ugly behaviors we've talked about today aren't moral failings or signs of weakness. They're signals. Signals of something deeper. Pain that has no language. Fear that goes unspoken. Loneliness that hides behind pride. An invisible weight of letting go after a lifetime of holding everything together. When seniors withdraw, when they repeat the same story, when they resist help or forget to eat, it's not a cry for pity. It's a human being doing their best to navigate a stage of life most of us are afraid to even look at. But the answer isn't to ignore it or label it. The answer is to name it, talk about it, share it. Because when we bring these experiences out of the shadows, we don't add shame, we remove it. We don't isolate, we include. And in that space of honesty, something beautiful can happen. Healing, compassion, understanding. So if you recognize your own habits in this video, or if you've seen a parent, a neighbor, a spouse quietly struggling, don't turn away. Lean in, ask the hard questions, sit in the discomfort, because aging doesn't mean disappearing. It doesn't mean becoming less valuable. In fact, it might be the moment when someone needs to be seen more than ever before. Growing older isn't about fading away. It's about stepping into a new kind of strength, a softer one, a wiser one. And when we choose to walk alongside our elders with open eyes and open hearts, we're not just helping them, we're preparing ourselves. Because one day we'll all be there, and how we treat aging today will echo into our own tomorrows. Thank you for being here. Thank you for not looking away. And thank you for helping bring truth, dignity, and love to the final chapters of life.